Hey D&D fam, I'm Quick.
And I'm Lee, and you're listening to
Divas and Ducats. So what is a diva? I think divas get a bad rep, but to me, diva is all about the attitude.
As for Ducat, it's your finances, your assets, Skrilla, guap, your coin. We're talking all things with the potential to affect your pockets.
And while we're attorneys by trade, we are divas by choice. Divas and Ducats is for edutainment purposes.
Y'all, we are not Series 511 or 703 professionals. This does not create a financial advisor or attorney-client relationship. The views expressed here are solely our opinions and the opinions of our guests.
It's just our opinions, y'all. Okay, divas, let's talk Ducats.
All right. Hey, D&D fam. Welcome back. We are happy to see you. If you are watching, make sure you subscribe below. And as usual, follow us on the things, Facebook and Instagram under Divas and Ducats. So let's get straight into it. What are we talking about on our Diva docket today?
We're going to be talking about Black love. Now, we're talking about wedding bells on a budget. It just, happens to be Black love that I'm promoting at the wedding. But we are talking about wedding bells on a budget because we know one of those huge astronomical expenses can be a wedding.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, like take out a mortgage, kind of have a wedding kind of thing. So, the days of you can, elope. But we are today talking about people that actually want to have a ceremony.
Yes.
And have the wedding and how you can do so on a budget.
And so we decided to bring in a subject matter expert on the topic. She's planned many an event to talk through some of these things because I just feel like we can have some quality and not take out a line of credit for your wedding.
Please.
So with that said, we go ahead. We always have our guests introduce yourself. What do you do? Why? What got you into it? So take it away.
Absolutely. Well, thank you all so much for having me on. I am super excited about talking about weddings. I love weddings. I'm passionate about it. I'm Sharee Allen. I am the owner of Couture Events. I am based out of Charlotte, North Carolina, but we will travel and fly anywhere to do weddings, corporate events. I love philanthropy events. I love foundation events as well. It's where my heart lies really deeply at. But how I got started was I worked for a four-diamond resort in Daytona Beach, Florida, the only four-diamond resort. And I started there while I was in college, attending Bethune-Cookman College.
Okay, Bethune.
And while I was there, I was working at that four-diamond resort. We did nothing but weddings every weekend. That was like my extra income money, and it was great money. Because we earned like 5% of whatever their wedding spent. So we would do like 100,000, 200,000 weddings. So it was a good chunk of change on the weekends. And I only did three days out of the week. So it was a good change for me to get into. And so once I worked there, I started really getting into the event industry. After I worked there at the hotel, I was offered a position with NASCAR. And so I worked for NASCAR for 15 years. As a catering manager, traveling. So we went East Coast, West Coast, doing NASCAR events. So that was like my job.
That's really cool.
It was a great dream job. Yeah. So I did that for a long time. And I worked with the clients that were in the infield, those folks that sat in the air conditioning for the races. Mm-hmm. So they had all the good food, all the high-end food, and
all the air.
All the air. And so that's really where I got my high level of service from, is from the Four Diamond Resort and NASCAR, because we just had to deliver that kind of service. So that really altered into my business when I launched Couture Events. So I'm excited to be there. One of my biggest things that I am passionate about of my business is that it's bigger than the event for me. It's bigger than the wedding for me. It's always about a relationship. And so I really take pride in building relationships with my clients and really being with them for lifelong. So whether I do their wedding, I do their kids' first christening, I do their 40th birthday party, whatever they it may be, but I want to be able to be throughout their life, not just for that one time, but for a lifetime.
That's really awesome.
Yeah, I like
Yeah.
that. That's really cool. Well, obviously services are not free. So speaking of not being free, let's talk about this average cost of the wedding. We looked at, one of the main sites you see for weddings, The Knot.
Mhm.
Yes.
And it said the average cost of a wedding just last year, 2022, was $30,000
That's correct.
for 150 guests.
Yep.
Houseway, what's happening?
Well, cost of goods, inflation has gone up about 17%. So that's why. That's why.
Because of eggs. You go with these eggs.
Eggs are going up.
Eggs.
Gas is going up. But yeah, inflation has really increased that. Therefore, it has caused services to, have to pay their employees more.
Mm-hmm.
Venues having to pay more money in electricity and everything that's, that takes to run a venue. Flowers, let's not even get on that. That's a whole nother podcast because I do floral arrangements myself.
Okay.
So that has increased tremendously.
Wow.
Like I don't even give, like when brides contact me for this year, for next year, I'm not even talking about their florals till next year.
I mean,
because that price is not even going to be today's price.
well,
it's not.
Yesterday's price is not
today's
today's price.
Is not yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. So that's really, inflation has really increased that. And that is why, and I know we have a lot to talk about today, but I don't want to bleed over into that. But that's why inflation is really increasing across the board. So that's why, and it's going to keep going up.
I'm going to take a segue since you brought up florals. So it's a way to cut costs with not having real flowers. Because honestly, that's what I didn't think
I'm glad you brought it up. Because honestly, the silk vendor flower vendor that I use, it's just about the same as a real flower. Because I'm not trying to be funny, but I'm not going to Michael's to get your artificial florals. Like I order them from a vendor that comes from Miami. They look real, but they're not real.
Yeah.
So you know what I'm saying? So I'm not going to Michael's. I'm not going to Hobby Lobby.
Right.
Okay.
So it's still just
there is a clientele for that, but that's not me.
Ooh.
I mean,
I was just about to say, what if I asked? But I guess I would be their client.
That doesn't represent couture events.
Okay.
That doesn't represent couture events.
That's
but
fair. That's fair.
I mean, there is a brand for that. I'm just not the brand.
Okay.
But a lot of people do that. I do have a lot of people come and they'll be like, oh, well, let's do fake flowers because they'll save me money. I'm like, no, it's not. It's not really.
Flowers really are expensive. Yeah.
Wow.
But I will tell you what will save you money is I always tell my clients to, we are going to repurpose flowers.
Okay.
So let's say whatever florals we use for the ceremony, I'm going to use them to your sweetheart table, or I may use them on your parents' table, or whatever's down the aisle, I may use on your cake table.
Mm-hmm.
If you have 20 bridesmaids, guess what? Those 20 bouquets we are going to use as your centerpieces on your guest table.
I know that's right.
Okay.
Or we're going to use them at your bar or different details like that. But that also goes into, why you should hire a planner, because those types of details, they will be able to work through those logistics and really make sure your money is being stretched.
Yeah.
I really hate for a lot of brides to spend a lot of money on florals and they can't repurpose them anywhere else throughout their ceremony or throughout their reception or anywhere else.
I like that.
You're really going to be able to do that.
Yeah, I got this picture in my head of after the bridesmaid take the picture, she'd be like, "Okay, girl, so I'm gonna I don't know.
I wait till after the pictures are done, and I'm like, let me get them.
Where you going?
I need that. So speaking,
it happens though.
I mean, hey, I'm with it. It makes total sense to me.
It saves money though, and people are like, oh yeah, we can do that, especially if you have a lot of bridesmaids.
Yeah,
and if you have a lot of guests. Because most couples do between 8 to 10 people per table. Okay. With COVID now, 8 people.
Yeah. So speaking of cheaper, are there certain months or seasons that are cheaper to get married, or even like days of the week?
Yeah. So the months would be December, January, and February.
So the winter.
That's like and then maybe July. Because July is a month where a lot of people are doing summer vacations. Kids are out of school. You know, it's just a vacation time. So people are typically gone. That's typically a slow season for planners, event professionals, January, December, February, and then July. It's pretty slow.
Right.
And
Because
like
June is like super high, right? And then
June is
July
super
is
hot.
low.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
I guess I thought from the heat perspective, like maybe people are hot.
Yeah. And then obviously Fridays are cheaper and Sundays are cheaper.
Okay.
Fridays and Sundays are always going to be your cheaper dates. And then obviously I've had people get married on a Wednesday night. I'm not, no shade. You know what? If you put it out early enough, people know when your wedding is. They'll come. If it's a Wednesday night or Tuesday night, they'll
or they
celebrate.
could not, and we could cut down on these guests.
Listen. And I got that on my list too. Yeah. So I mean, I'm not knocking a Tuesday night wedding at all. Because it's much cheaper.
So when you say cheaper, are we talking like, I know venues are cheaper, but like overall too, like photographers are cheaper during winter seasons than they are, or we talk about the venue
it's
price?
be the same, but the venue price will be cheaper.
Okay.
Everything else will be pretty much the same.
Okay.
But a venue price will be at a lot cheaper.
Okay.
Especially if you get married Monday through Thursday. I mean, it's probably like more than half the cost.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
You could do like a Thursday. Remember how they used to have what was it called? Alive After 5? You can have like an Alive After 5 wedding like Thursday night.
Yeah, everybody's
bring in the weekend.
There you go.
I mean, you knew 6
and
months
make it a whole weekend deal. You know, it's a great way to kind of break up your wedding weekend because, you know, most people do get married on Saturdays. So it's like a rush weekend and everybody's flying back out Sunday.
Yeah.
So if you do break it up like that, you can do Friday, like, okay, we're going to explore Charlotte. You know, Saturday, we're going to have a cookout. And then Sunday, everybody go back home. You know, so that also can spread your budget out a little bit more.
I like that idea.
Y'all heard the listeners. Y'all better do a Live After 5
Thursday night wedding. Stretch it into a 4-day weekend like some of these other cultures.
Why not?
Right.
And that's a whole vibe.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a whole vibe. It is. It's a whole vibe.
Except they aren't cutting budgets, but
that's different. You know, they start saving from the day you're born. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Right. That's probably some of them $100,000 weddings she was dealing with.
Yeah.
So speaking of being budget friendly, like what are the easiest areas? We talked the venue and like time of the week. Obviously, will cut some things. So what are the easiest areas to kind of cut costs and still have a quality?
Have a good, I would say cut your guest count. That is the best way to really still have quality, still have everything you really want, but just decrease your guest count. I don't feel like everybody needs to be invited to your wedding just because you've known them since you were 3 months and you don't really remember that.
Okay.
You know, that doesn't really mean they need to be invited. And I always tell clients, because a lot of my brides and grooms, most of them will come to me months before because they're kind of like dwindling down their list. And they're like, what do you think? Like, you know, so-and-so is on the list, but we really need to cut down. Like, do you think we should invite them? Well, how, you know, to me, this is how I break it down. Would you spend $100 to $150 a person on a meal to take them on a regular day? If that answer is no, then they can go. So that's kind of how
I love that rule and have that rule for sure.
Yeah. So that's kind of like my rule. If I wouldn't take you out to dinner for a regular night and spend $150 on you, I probably am not going to invite you to my wedding.
I mean, that's a real small list of that. I'm just saying.
I mean, because when you really got to cut down, you know, I've seen people, brides and grooms, and there's people at the weddings and I'm just kind of like observing, you know, I'm like standing in the corner observing and like seeing them walk around. And I've seen some people not even speak to some people that are at their wedding and they're just there for, I'm like, did they know them? Or did they just get here by default? Or
that's their mama friend.
They mama friend. And see, stuff like that, I'm just like, why? Why did you spend that on that person? Like, why? I mean, so that's the biggest way to cut down is to dwindle your guest count. And even when people are thinking about budgets, you know, a lot of clients come and they're like, oh, you know, I saw this on Instagram and I want this. And I'm like, that's great. But do you have the funds to do that? And if you don't, cut your guest count down. It is okay. You can still have a nice wedding, but cut it down.
I mean, when she said it like that, I was like, "Oh, this list is about 15 people. It's getting real." She said $150 for like one person.
So that's realistic for food.
100 to 150, yeah. And I'm talking that I'm including the food, the glass, the
place setting,
appetite, the hors d'oeuvres, the napkin. I'm talking like just kind of like an all inclusive price.
Okay.
Of what that average would be. The linen, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
It's getting real sparse. I'm just saying.
These tables gonna be real skimp.
It's good. 150 a person. I don't know about that.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, I know you more cutthroat than me. You ain't about to invite second cousin Sheila for no 150. Exactly.
No.
Like, nah, this getting
She's
real.
like, nah, I ain't doing it.
Exactly. So speaking of cutting costs, like what are the areas where maybe a bride and groom should not, or bride, groom, should not cut costs?
Well, my first one is going to be you should not cut your wedding planner. Okay.
Okay.
I am a necessity, and myself and plenty other planners all over the world, you really need a wedding planner. Seriously. I will have to say, I'm being very transparent. This year, brides and grooms have cut their planner 48%. Okay. Not sure why. I don't know why. I know why,
because somebody auntie telling them, I can tell you how to walk down the aisle.
There you go. And they think they can save their money themselves. And I get it. But again, you paying for nails, you paying for hair, you paying for hair color, you paying for the trips to the DR. Budget for your wedding planner. Because to be honest, we are really keeping the flow of your day together, your rehearsal together, your whole 12 months of planning. It's a lot of work that is entailed into that. And we're working with all your vendors. We're making sure everything is taken care of. Your logistics are right. Even the questions that you don't think about, I'm thinking about.
Right.
Or I'm like, hey, did you do this? Hey, did you check on this? Hey, was that I dotted? Was that T crossed? There's just so many different details, so many moving parts. And I would just think it's a disservice for you to plan your wedding, your dream wedding, and that be your, whether it's your first or your second wedding, doesn't matter. But to get down to the aisle and you really don't have your stuff together without a planner, it just sucks.
Right.
And for those brides thinking that, I can be the day of, girl, how are you gonna get your makeup done and be your planner? You cannot. Stop.
No, not unless you want stress.
Yeah, you can't do it. And so that's the first person that you're gonna not need to cut. Your photographer, your wedding professional photographer. You are not gonna want to cut that. I'm telling you now. I have had couples that I've recommended wedding photographers to, the best of the best here in Spartanburg is where I'm from, in Charlotte. And they've come to me and been like, oh man, that's a lot, Sharee. And I'm like, listen, trust me when I tell you, you're gonna thank me later,
right,
when this is all said and done. And every single one of them have come back to me and said, you know what? It was worth every dime. Even my sister, I did my sister's wedding. And at first she was like, Sharee, this almost $8,000, $9,000. Like, what are we talking about here? And I said, listen, sis, please do it. Please. I said, you are paying a lot of money at your venue. And she was on like 99 acres. The venue she was at was beautiful. And I was like, you have a beautiful venue. Your decor is going to be beautiful. I'm going to bring it through, but I need you to have a good photographer. And she did. And when she got her photos back, like, she still shares them to this day. And she got married 2 years ago, but she loves them. Her engagement photos were great. I encourage all couples, whoever you do your engagement photos, does your wedding.
Okay.
Same photographer. So it's a flow of how everything looks. It's very important that you do that. Do your research. Don't just book with anybody. See if you and that person have great personality. Same with your planner. I don't have a problem with somebody saying, I don't think we're going to be a good fit. I do the same thing. I interview my clients.
Yeah.
If I feel like the relationship or the vibe is not going to be there, then I'll say, you know what? I think I can recommend you to another planner. I don't think this is going to work. Like for me, communication is very big. So if I see a client can't email me back in a timely manner, or they can't really communicate back with me, I'm like, red flag. I don't think this is going to work. Because I don't really want to chase somebody that I'm trying to make your dreams come true. And, you're like, oh, I ain't got time. No, we can't do that.
Yeah.
So really interviewing your vendors, and that's across the board, making sure you're hiring professional people. I highly discourage folks to hire friends without contracts. I see it time and time again. I see it time and time again. Please stop doing. I guess I'll talk about it. I had a wedding, and I won't tell the date, but they hired a friend that was a photographer, and they still don't have their photos. They got married last year. I told them not to do it. I mean,
that sucks.
You got to have a contract. I don't care if you've known them since you was in diapers.
Yeah.
Please get a contract.
Get a contract. It's very important. Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Because stuff like that, it's just like, oh, we good. We don't like, no.
Right.
Contract.
And now we done fell out because where are my pictures?
Because you don't
yeah, that's a problem.
That's a problem. So when you're hiring a professional photographer, planner, or caterer, whatever the case may be, you have a contract, you have a timeline. And that's some of the questions that I ask my full planning folks that are hiring me for full planning from beginning all the way to end. Like, let me see your photographer's contract. Let me take a look at it. Let me see when is your deliverables are supposed to be back, which is when is your photos are supposed to be back to you. That's a huge component that I think a lot of people miss in their contract, is when they're supposed to get them back.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times I'm reminding the client because they've went off to Jamaica or Spain or wherever.
Right. Yeah.
And when they get back, they're back in work mode, mommy mode. And I'll be like, and it's still on my radar as a planner. That's just me. Not a lot of planners do that, because once your wedding's done, they
on to the next.
Right.
Goodbye. But for me, I get pretty much all the albums of my weddings, and I want those photos because I need them for my social media, my website, whatever.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, hey, have you gotten a sneak peek yet?
When we get our pictures back?
You're
like, when we get our pictures back?
Yeah. Or I'll say, hey, have you gotten a sneak peek yet? Haven't heard from so-and-so. And they're like, you know what? You're right. I haven't. I was like, yeah. And I don't get in the middle of clients and other professionals. I don't do that. I just kind of let the client handle that. But I send them a little reminder, hey, just remind so-and-so. Right now I'm still dealing with a client that hasn't delivered all of the videography footage from their wedding. And I'm like, hey, the bride texted me this morning, and she's like, do you know I still haven't heard from him? I'm like, ridiculous. I said, he'll never get another referral from me. I promise you that. I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
In those two areas with wedding planning and a photographer, so I also suggest people, like, especially your good videography, people look at those on their anniversary dates for years and years to come.
They're really nice.
So I don't recommend cutting those, at least. But if we're cutting the areas, like, what are your thoughts on, like, a wedding planner? Let's say you can't afford the full time from the day of engagement to the day of wedding. Like, can you cut areas with it? I want a wedding planner, but I might not be able to afford the most expensive package. Or even with, photographers, videographers, like, I've even, have gone down the route of, because there are a lot of people in school, grad school, getting their masters in photography, and they need those kind of things to get certain certificates. So it might not be the $9,000 photographer, but, checking out a portfolio. What are your thoughts about that?
I would have to see what their work looks like. Who maybe they're interning with somebody. I know a lot of great photographers that have interns that are at that level. They're there. Yeah. They really are. And so I would be open to that. I would just have to see their work. I would just ask a lot of questions.
Yeah.
I would definitely do that. Yeah, I would ask a lot of questions if you're going to go that route.
Yeah.
As far as planning goes, if you don't do the full service, I would definitely recommend partial planning. I have a lot of clients that do partial planning, which is great. At least I'm involved. I'm involved about 3 months prior. That's my partial planning.
Okay.
I don't do day ofs. It's either partial or full.
Okay.
I don't recommend hiring someone just for your day of. I just don't think it's enough.
It's beneficial, right?
In the past couple of years, that whole title of day of is crazy to me, because I just feel like, again, there's a lot of moving parts. As a bride, if you're doing partial planning, I just don't think me coming in a couple weeks before is enough time. I mean, you got your head in so many other things by that time. Me coming in a month before talking about, hey girl, like, okay, let's talk about your wedding. You've been planning for 12 months. I mean, that's insane.
Right.
I just feel like I'm not setting you up for success at all. And it's a lot of pressure on me. And I don't want that kind of pressure, to be honest.
Gotcha.
I'd rather have the pressure of partial planning or full. That way, partial, even if we're 3 months in and I got 3 months to figure it out, I got a good 3 months. And that's enough time for me to turn your situation around, because I've gotten involved 3 months prior, and there's been clients where I'm like, where's your caterer's contract? Or is the caterer bringing all this stuff? Is the caterer doing all this stuff? And they be like, what? I'm like, okay.
Right.
We need to talk about we need to talk tonight at 6 o'clock, sis. Okay. You know, so it's just those types of details that really have to be panned out, because the closer you get, everybody want their money a month before.
Oof.
You know, and again, I want you to be prepared financially, which, let me just speak on that really quick. I know we talked about budgets, but really, whatever your budget is, plan about $2,000 to $3,000, just a buffer.
Okay.
Just in case.
Yeah.
Because it always comes up.
Okay. That makes sense.
You got a bridesmaid, say she gonna pay, and then she don't pay for her makeup and services for the morning. You need to pay for that. A guy, he
Maybe
feels
not to be plain
ashamed
face,
that,
not just plain.
a groomsman feel ashamed that you know, he having hard times and he can't really pay for a $1,500 suit, and that his men's are wearing Louboutins. I mean, I've seen it all.
Good gracious.
Well, fancy.
That's not the wedding bells on a budget.
They ain't on a budget.
Baby, I don't even want to be in your wedding. If I got to buy Louboutins.
It was 12 of them, and they started walking in front of me. I said, do y'all have on Louboutins?
Okay.
It was 12 of them. I'm like, where y'all working at?
Listen.
We're going to have all these J's.
Well, yeah, they turned into that too now, like the sneaker look.
You said no? You don't like it? You know?
Another podcast.
I'm like, but that's still a few $100. If you wearing matching J's, you still spend a couple hundred on top of your tux. So now your tux is more like.
And they're getting into these custom suits now. Listen.
Okay, custom.
So what's the cheapest wedding you've done? Lowest wedding that you think you've done?
$13,000.
Okay.
And it was really nice. It was at an art gallery.
Okay.
It was 40 people.
How many? 40?
40. They cut that $100 a person. They were real good at that.
Yeah, 40 people. We did past heavy hors d'oeuvres, chicken and waffles, shrimp and grits, crab cakes. The bar was open for an hour.
Okay.
Flip to cash.
You better double fist.
And they didn't have no problems with it. We had cocktail tables. The ceremony was standing. It was a little bit like vintage, like furniture type stuff. But it was nothing like formal at all. And it was beautiful. They spent money where they wanted to spend money, which the money was on the catering. She had some decor, nice decor. Her cake was nice. Myself, she had a great photographer, which photos was killer. You know, I did her bouquet. I did her bridesmaids bouquet. She had 5 bridesmaids. We didn't do boutonnieres.
Were they in Charlotte?
Charlotte.
Is that photographer on your list? Because if her okay.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
I just feel like he might be in the budget, because if her whole thing was 13,000, he clearly was an 8.
He might have.
So
he was in the budget.
Okay, cool.
That's cool.
Yeah. And again, there are
doable.
photographers that have different packages
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
You know, depending on how many hours.
How many hours? Yeah.
Yeah. That's really what it boils down to. How many hours?
Okay.
And then obviously your engagement shoot,
Mm-hmm.
a wedding album. I always suggest people to work with photographers that offer those services, that you get a wedding album, which is really nice because you get those mailed out to you, or the photographer will meet you with it. And it's just something nice that you can have in your home. You always have. It's printed out. And you don't have to worry about paying for additional. It's already included in what you already paid.
Mm-hmm. And that 13 is at 40 people.
Yeah. So they cut cost of the people, and did they cut cost of time? Like, did they have the photographer there that you know of, like in all the pre-photos while they get makeup? They didn't have it. Ceremony.
No, just ceremony and the reception, which was very, it was just very minimal. I mean, they had a DJ or whatever, but they just chilled. They wanted candid photos. They didn't really want a lot of standard photos. They did their bride and groom, their bridal party, and then that was it. Everything else was candid. They just wanted candid stuff. But they did have an after party, which they invited other people to, and they came. It was at a hotel rooftop.
Yeah.
So they spent money there, and they were like, "Cool, we done." And they we were at the venue only, I think, 4 to 5 hours. That's it. That's ceremony and reception.
Okay.
Yeah, because it was 3 hours. 3 hours of reception, 1 hour for me to set up, and 1 hour for me to break down, and then 3 hours for the reception of the ceremony. That's what it was.
So you said that's it. Is that not normal? Because that just made me tired. That's short.
Yeah.
Oh.
Normally, a photographer is there shooting at least 8 hours, 8 to 10 hours.
But ceremony and reception is normally 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
But again, they didn't really do a cocktail hour, because right after their ceremony, it moved right into the cocktail hour. So they didn't have to
change all these photos.
All that stuff. They were,
that makes sense.
They didn't have to do all that. That cuts out. And that also cuts out on time. They didn't have to worry about all that. So they were able to party with their guests, which is cool.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I really do. Feels more intimate.
Yeah.
I love the intimate.
So how soon after getting engaged, we talked about these little prom pictures with the girls making sure they got their little ring in the picture. How soon after getting engaged should you start planning, like to reduce stress?
I would say at least 12 to 13 months out. Yeah, to give you time. If you haven't already started saving money, or I don't know if your parents are helping, or, just start putting back money for that. I mean, because you know what you want, you know what you can afford. So, and if you need to work a little bit more hours or whatever, you need to start putting back more. But I say the earlier the better. I've had clients plan 2 years in advance, and when I tell you those 2 years go by like this. So I would say at least 12 months. So if you feel like you need to save more, then I would say a year and a half, 2 years.
Okay.
So as far as planning, I know a lot of, really popular venues, you have to get them out. They're kind of like daycares. You got to book them a year in advance anyway.
3 years.
But do venues charge more? Let's say, I'm just make a decision, and in 3 months, this is where we're going to go. Would they charge me more for a 3-month notice versus a year notice? I mean, outside of the fact of prices, my prices are different. Okay, they don't. If they have an opening, it is what it is.
Well, I'll take that back, because every year venues are going up.
Right.
Like my pricing goes up every year.
Yeah.
So if you wait 3 months prior versus the year prior.
Yeah. So outside of that though, but not like a last minute charge. Okay.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Cool.
But I would not recommend, if there's a month or a date you really want to get married in, you really need to go ahead and lock that in ASAP. Because people right now for this year are already booking for next year.
Of course.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Especially,
pretty much around
especially
the
if you're a
holiday
numbers
times,
person and you like certain dates.
Yeah, there are 11.
11, 22 was a big one.
I had a lot of weddings, 11, 10.
You don't know this. I just attract people in my life who care about these dates, and that's why she laughing.
One
I'm
plus
like,
one. I mean, of course I'm gonna love numbers. Like, what do you mean?
I'm like, girl, I could get married
I
on
need numbers.
6/3/25. I don't care.
6 plus 3, that's 9.
But no,
2 plus 5.
we're not doing this. So that's where that come from. She one of those.
I one of those.
Oh my gosh.
So if you're talking about like locations, cutting costs on location, because everybody can't afford the country club, so
Right.
a lot of these country clubs, you got to have somebody that's a member, and
Right.
but let's say you can't get in there, but you still want maybe the sprawling hills, or you want a view. You want a view, right?
Right.
What are some areas that you can cut costs in there, because the country clubs are expensive,
Yeah. I would say choose venues that have great aesthetics. It really is beautiful. Like that art gallery I was telling you about, it wasn't even like that jazzed up, but it was the aesthetics in there was beautiful. Like the ceilings were high, the chandeliers were nice.
Yeah.
Things like that will make your wedding very beautiful, and you don't need a whole lot of decorations. One venue in particular here in Charlotte, Grand Bohemian. Grand Bohemian is beautiful.
It's really eclectic.
It's very millennial. I like it's very clean. You don't have to do a lot of decor. You need a lot of candle lighting and like maybe some flowers, and then you're good to go.
Right.
Like you don't need a lot of money. So really cutting costs with venues would be choosing a venue that is just nice. The Mint Museum, I do a lot of weddings at Mint Museum. It's just very nice. It's an art gallery, a lot of natural light, hardwood floors. When you're choosing like dark places or crazy carpet, walls are dark, it's very hard to transform places like that. So you're going to be spending a lot more. But that would definitely cut costs when you're choosing a venue. So try to choose venues that have a lot of natural light, that speak to the couple. I always tell the couples, like, make sure whatever you all choose, make sure it speaks to you guys.
Right.
When I come into your wedding, I want to say, oh my God, this is John.
This is so them.
This is so them. You know what I'm saying? When you're choosing your hors d'oeuvres, like, I know the bride likes shrimp and grits, and I know the groom's likes beer and I don't know, fried chicken, and so that's what they end up serving during their cocktail hour. But make sure it's always about a reflection of the couple. Always make sure that is a forefront. Because I know a lot of, like you said, you're trying to cut costs, but you'll go to like a community center. Yeah, the community center might be $1,000, but Lord have mercy, you got to spend a whole lot
of money to transform that bad boy.
So just think about that when you're trying to cut costs. Just thinking about a place that is easy to decorate, or you don't have to bring in a lot. Or also ask the venue, what do they provide? There are some venues that are all inclusive that will include like candles, or they'll supply like minimal decor. That is a way to cut costs. I know there's a venue in the upstate that I have used several times, and she provides all the decor.
Yeah.
Oh.
And she has like a little shed in the back of her venue, and it's like free for all.
Whatever you can find back there.
Whatever you find. Yeah. It's nice stuff. You know what I'm saying? It's nice stuff. But just try to find venues like that, because I'm not trying to blast venues, but they're not going to tell you what they provide. I mean, you got to ask.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's like,
that's
okay,
fair.
this is going to sound crazy. Now you go to the restaurants and they don't just bring you the bread. You got to ask them for
Do y'all have bread?
It's like that. You got to ask them for the
or extra napkins. Can I get some more napkins?
That should just be standard.
Okay. That's fair. Yeah. I do think that the venues, like you said, could be huge, especially that all-inclusive with venues can be a big big cost savings. Big cost savings right there.
But let me say this. Shed lightly on those venues, and I know a lot of brides are not going to like me for this, but that have a venue that say, oh, well, we'll provide you a coordinator. Let me just tell you. Okay. It's not me. Okay. You getting somebody that works for that venue. They're your coordinator for that day. They're not going to be involved in all your behind the scenes now. They're there to bring your bridesmaids down the aisle, bring your groomsmen down the aisle, maybe bring you a little mocktail. But that's it. They're not heavily involved. So be careful. Yeah, they're your coordinator at your venue, but they're not all hands on deck.
Right.
They're
Of course
not.
not. Of
I
course
got
not.
you.
Okay, you still gonna need a planner because I see that a lot. And they're like, oh yeah, they said I get a coordinator, so I don't really need you. Okay, girl.
Now that brings me to it's a little segue. So I have, because some people will say they'll do like a destination wedding to save money.
Yes.
But like, how are you guaranteeing, because it's somewhere else? So how are you really knowing like what foods you're gonna get, what it's gonna be like? Like, should you engage a planner for that, or like how do you mitigate that anxiety? Because that would give me anxiety of like, I'm not there, so I can't see what the things.
Yeah. So funny you said that. So I'm actually dabbling into destination weddings with another planner, who's a travel agent, and she does a lot of destination weddings. And so it's very simple, very easy, especially if you're working with a planner that is knowledgeable in those resorts. But it's very easy. Very easy to do. They'll have your back with it. They'll work with the coordinator at that resort. So I mean, it's very easy to do. You just got to work with somebody that really knows the ins and out of that.
Okay.
Yeah. But if they know the resort, they know the area, like the planner that I'm going to start collaborating with to do destination weddings. She does a lot of DR weddings, a lot of Cabos weddings, Jamaica. So those are like the 3 destination places that I'll probably do destination weddings at: Cabos, DR, and Jamaica.
Got you.
In your thoughts, do destination weddings cut costs though?
They do.
How so? I mean, outside of guests, like if
you can do like a nice wedding, destination wedding for about $5,000 to $6,000 for about 40 people.
But the 40 people got to get there.
Well, you didn't pay for that.
Yeah, that's not. Yeah. That's just for them to eat, ceremony. It does cut cost. A lot of people are going to destination weddings. I mean, I'm not knocking them. I'm not.
And that would include the photographer and everything.
No.
See, because
you're still gonna have to pay for their travel, the planner's travel,
your bridal, whoever's doing your makeup, you're gonna pay for her travel, more than likely her makeup.
Yeah.
Unless you engage somebody local and get their portfolio.
It's not as many people that you're flying. It's not as many people you flying out. Because most weddings that I've seen with the other planner that I'm working with, she's flying out me, her, the photographer, the DJ, and the makeup artist. That's it. No caterer, no bartender. Look at her. She's like, what?
What you had, about $1,500?
I mean, we had that's $2,000 right there on top of the $5,000 you just said. That's $7,000.
She still ain't at 30.
Right.
Yeah.
You sure ain't.
Sure.
You closer to 10.
It's only 40 guests.
Well, I mean, if you want to come.
You going to fly your parents out?
Am I No, they're going to fly themselves out. They're at the point of life.
Yeah, but if they want to come, they'll plan.
I mean, yeah.
Y'all are cutthroat.
Am I flying my mama? No. She got a job. I'm not doing this. You take this offline.
We're going to take it offline. Okay. Let's just go with this cheaper. So, with that being said, I definitely think that, you have given some really, really great ways for the, to cut costs, like you said, and be very careful with photographer and videographers. Like you said, go through those portfolios, go through.
And everybody, caterers.
Everybody, yeah.
I mean, I've seen people hiring caterers that are not even licensed. What are we doing here?
Yes. We're going to tell y'all, especially legally, make sure they have contracts. If a person can't produce a contract, don't hire them. That's just not the day you want to mess with somebody that don't have a contract.
No.
Period. People could get sick. That might be your favorite uncle. He might throw it out at every family reunion. He come to this wedding and get 3 people sick and they suing you, and it's on you. So get contracts. I will say that. Make sure that you get contracts. And make sure that you vet people. There are people that can cater. There are people that can shoot photography. That don't mean they could do weddings. It's a whole different beast, right?
It is.
A class graduation, or we at the house shooting. he could do some bomb photos for 2 or 3 people. But when you talk about shooting 50 and moving parts and people moving, that's a whole different thing. A sports photographer is not a wedding photographer. So make sure that you have seen portfolios of weddings that these people have done. So,
yeah, it's true. I don't know how many times I can say it, but you have to have a contract.
Yeah, you have to.
And it's okay. Get an attorney to look over it. I've had a couple of attorneys that have asked me to fix some stuff in my contracts, and I have no problem. Like, listen, help me.
All right, make me better.
They have, get an attorney to look at your contracts and make sure everything is good to go. Make sure you're covered, because it's one thing to be saying, oh, they got a contract, but then it's not really even a real contract.
Right.
Like,
right.
You can go on Google and get a contract.
It's a statement. That wasn't a contract. It's a statement. So, Sharee, we have enjoyed.
Yes, thoroughly enjoyed you here.
A blast. Where can the people find you? Because as you said, you do weddings, you do events, you do all the things. So
so they can find me on www.couture events with a S by Sharee, SHAREE.com. On Instagram is Couture Events by Sharee as well. And then on Facebook is Couture Events.
All right.
And then they can Google me as well. If they Google Couture Events, it'll come up.
Google me.
Yeah, Google me. You'll find me.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to go ahead?
And you'll see all my reviews. You'll see my reviews, photos. It's great. I would love to, if people have inquiries, if they want to have a consultation, you can set that up. I give 1 hour complimentary consultations. After that, nice. The price goes up.
Well,
you could have done
1 hour.
Well, because after that, you just wasted my time. Like, I've answered
after an hour.
It was an hour.
You don't know whether we gonna do it. We ain't gonna do it. That's just what it is. I'm like, really?
Period.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to share with the people as they trying to get them the nuptials together?
No, this has been really great. Just plan ahead.
Yeah.
Do your research. Do your due diligence. It's okay to sleep on things. I give most of my clients 7 to 10 days to figure out if they want to book with me. I ask them, hey, ask for reviews. If you want to talk to a client that I've worked with before, I don't have a problem with that.
That's awesome.
And if a vendor has a problem with you speaking with the client they've had, that's a red flag. They probably shouldn't be booking with them. But just do your research, do your due diligence. There's some great and amazing creatives here in Charlotte. I absolutely think Charlotte has some amazing creatives. Like, we have some great professionals. I'm actually doing a networking event with Gavlin Bouloir on Sunday with event professionals here in Charlotte. And we are getting event professionals together for our first networking event that we're collaborating on, and just trying to help professionals in the industry here in Charlotte.
Yeah.
Because I feel like there's some things that we need to do better at communicating, having our websites updated, having a good contact number, being able to be reached at, things like that, and just networking and all in general. So I'm excited to see that. So yeah, that's all I have. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, D&D fam, you have heard it. You know the ways you can cut costs. Keep your quality. We understand. And save ahead if you can. I mean, I know some of y'all might be surprised in the fall and winter with a little. So just be thinking about it. So y'all, in the meantime, in between time, you can find us on the things, Facebook, Instagram, Divas and Ducats, www.divasandducats.com. When we have time for Dear Diva segment, we are divaadvice@gmail.com. That is DIVAADVICE@gmail.com.
Diva Advice.
All right.
So in the meantime, in between time, have a great attitude.
Bye.